Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street, back with another video for you guys today. LCX is our topic today. We'll be talking particularly about the bond asset, very interesting stuff coming out from that, and a bit of an update on the LEOX token as well, after the pre-sale or the opening sale has occurred, and what to look out for next. So before we do that, don't forget to check out the other videos on the channel after this one, of course. And don't forget to smash that subscribe button if you have not done so already. It's good to be back. Was off the last week or so with a bit of a cold that time of year, the usual nonsense, but here we are back again with a voice. Let's go straight into this one. So this is one of the most recent and awesome updates here from LCX, the LCX exchange, the EURT7 tokenized bond. So this is very interesting, guys. Now, we've done a few videos recently about tokenization in general, and we actually mentioned many times across the last year about how tokenization or digital assets can be incorporated to replace all the different things that we use in the world today. Now, this in some similar aspects is what you would presume as a kind of like a savings account, if you like, but of course with bonds, which you can get through your traditional banking methods, mostly at any time, you get these opportunity for bonds, which are usually a longer term kind of savings account, if you like, with a kind of fixed term of earnings. So in this instance, and what's really interesting is this is one of the first proper bonds that I've seen that is first of all pegged, but also something that is basically providing to us via digitalization, tokenization. So this being a very interesting 7% fixed yield per annum. One thing to note, here in the UK, unfortunately cannot get a hold of this, as of course we are out of Europe right now, but for sure there's a list of countries here, 30 in total. I'm not sure if that's 30 in total right there, but certainly those are some of the ones, if not all of them. I haven't actually counted them, of what's the opportunity there for availability. So this in mind, this really does create a framework and a platform for potentially other exchanges to go down this route. Now, you could argue, well, hang on a minute, how is this different to a fixed staking account and things like this? Well, in my opinion, and the things like LCX exchange, which are very close to being a bank methodology, but the obvious main thing about these kind of things is that you have essentially the control of your own money, both the visibility, the verification, the history of your money, and control in terms of like how it's sent and who it's sent to, etc. Of course, within regulation, as we know that through the Liechtenstein protocol, LCX is a heavily regulated exchange already, albeit only in that kind of country. But for Europe, this is a pretty big thing, and there's big heavy involvement with the likes of Quant, which we'll go into in a second on some other things here. But this is a really interesting move forward. A couple of other bits of information here. You have to have a minimum of €1,000 worth in your account on the LCX exchange to be able to take this this opportunity. 7-year maximum, quarterly termination possible. So there's opportunity for you to come out of that. It doesn't appear to, it might be in some small print, I haven't read all the forms yet, whether there's a fee for terminating early. But the other thing as well, usually with traditional bonds in the financial sphere of banking, you do tend to have increases or decreases of that percentage yield based on inflation. And this opens up a really interesting topic and thought process for another video in a few days' time, about this whole inflation conversation, because in my opinion, the last few years, as we've been moving more further towards CBDCs, I honestly believe that in the next few years, the governments will come out to the general public. Now, we know all of this because we're in the space, or you may have just been learning, or you've come across this kind of video or other channels by accident and learning along that path. However, a big giant percentage of people out there, maybe even more than 90% of the world's population, have no idea about cryptocurrencies, digital currencies, tokenization, or anything like this. That's what's going on in this space, right? So my thoughts are that because of the recession that we are in and the amount of recessions that we've had and inflation perspectives over the last 100 years or whatever, I believe that the governments and everything as a uniformed, coherent around the world will come out and say, we've got a solution that will eradicate inflation forever based on algorithm data, AI, etc. And it will be done through digitalization, giving all the great things that digital currencies and digital formats in this instance can provide humanity, provide us with even people who are unbankable. I think there's something like 2 billion people in the world don't even have a bank account because their system or their governments aren't in an infrastructure status to be able to provide them, which is crazy in this day and age. So it opens up loads of opportunities. Of course, there are potential negatives towards going down the CBDC route and all of those kind of things. But my point being is that we are really escalating the opportunities for traditional banking switching across to this method. And there is an argument, and there is actually definitely factual information out there of the diminishing number of physical banks that are out there. All my local ones personally are disappearing. We're moving into more of a digital format anyway. And whether these banks continue and formulate, we know that a lot of them are becoming compliant with the new financial messaging, which is really involved heavily with cryptocurrency and blockchain, the ISO 20022 formation and standardization framework. But there is an opportunity for some of these banks to potentially just disappear because they haven't caught up or they haven't adapted. And we know that the banks are very well looked after and vice versa with governments and etc. So my thoughts on that side of things is that they probably won't have too much of an issue here, but you can see these massive amounts of new exchanges, these new organizations coming into fruition for you and I to be able to become bankable if we're not already. And secondly, become your own bank, become in control of your money, hopefully through a decentralized platform and formation. But of course, CBDCs being very centralized, it's going to be interesting to see how that incorporates as well. So I'm going to keep an eye on these developments here, but this is very interesting indeed. And I believe from March onwards, the 1st of March, you'll be able to take potential advantage of this mechanism of a bond system. So very interesting indeed. 10 million euro tokenized bond is available. Of course, as I said, minimum here of 1,000 euros required. So keep that in mind. It's definitely something interesting and something that we'll follow up on as time goes by. But of course, always, even in the traditional banking methods, always think about the risk here, guys. And that money, putting it into a fixed account, albeit that you supposedly can terminate it with each quarter, just bear in mind and make sure that you read all the intricate details about that. We're not financial advisors, for sure. Myself, I'm not going to get involved in this fully until I've read every single bit of documentation as to what this is, because this is unknown territory pretty much in the new financial world that we're moving into. Tokenization. The only thing I would say, guys, is that with being within the LCX platform, we obviously know about some of the regulations that they abide to, but LCX is a token and everything like this, about the compliance mechanism, the KYC, anti-money laundering opportunities here. So they call that AML. And of course, the ability for KYT as well. So this is very much about the deciphering and the strength of the blockchain that it's working on. In this instance, it's Ethereum, which is obviously a substantial blockchain already and very, very sustained itself over a long time already. And the fact that LCX works over private and public sales can be very interesting to see if any commercialized bonds come into fruition as time goes by as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. The next topic very quickly is the LEOX token. So December just gone. If you remember, we talked about this in a very interesting video about physical NFTs, NFT. This is about the physicality tokenization. Taking, for example, a watch, you might have like a Rolex, a really high valued property item or an asset item, but you want to share this with other people, or you want to have it verified that it's definitely legitimate, and that if you sell it, it's based on its current value depending on your algorithm, demand, supply, etc. So all the things that you know about blockchain incorporating into that. It can be about cars, houses, etc. All of these things, right? So the LEOX token went into a sale mechanism throughout that month or so at the beginning of this year. And right now, the LCX exchange is basically in a closed format of the LEOX token. And someone did ask in the comments, when can I buy this now outside of that? I haven't found a full answer for that yet. There's a bit more digging to do, but we'll definitely do a video on that update as and when it occurs. But for sure, always try to keep an eye on the LCX exchange itself, because this is where you will really find out more information towards what possibilities there are to get hold of that LEOX token outside of the recent and previous sale of this. So very interesting indeed. Of course, the LEOX token very much being utilized towards the aspect of verification, the processing, the transactions as well. But what's interesting to mention here too is the DeFi lending borrowing protocol. Now, there's a lot of exchanges and a lot of chains out there at the moment that allow this lending and borrowing now, trying to replace the existing kind of loan system that we have in banks. Very interesting indeed to see the incorporation of that further. And I do think that with LCX bringing out this bond system, there's going to be some very significant integrations throughout the rest of this year and leading into 2025, as I truly believe there's going to be a full switchover, or certainly a big mass adoption of this new digital framework and opportunity for us to be in control of everything, for us to have verification of everything as well, and not be dictated to by banks. It's very crucial to think about these things. And of course, one thing to mention with regards to the LEOX token and LCX in general, levering the Quants network, Galileo protocol aims to provide frictionless trading and secure transaction method without needing a third-party intermediary. So already you've got a cost-effective method here. Of, as we just said, with banks and everything, you think about commissions or exchanges rates or just general costs that get applied to any form of transaction. The utilization of the framework that Quant deliver as a network. We've obviously got the Ethereum blockchain behind this as well, Polygon, etc. It's really starting to define the mass adoption of interoperability and the mass adoption of a different alternative for us as users in the financial sphere, our own personal money as businesses. It's really interesting to see these developments, guys, in my opinion. Let us know what you think about all this in the comments below. I think there's a lot more to come. I'm very interested to see the further development of these PNFTs. I'd love to see some proper case studies of this. There's some great projects out there like Boson Protocol that have been working on a similar thing for some time. And we've obviously seen a lot of NFT application over the last few years, especially within artwork. We cover a project, for example, like Proppy, which is very heavily related to the real estate markets and commercial properties as well. It's really changing, guys. The next few years leading up to the next 10-15 years are going to be very significant, and it's great to be involved in these tokens and these projects at these current stages, because there's so much more to come, so much more ecosystem building to occur, and so much more development and solutions to be provided by these kind of guys as well. So keep an eye on that. This is what I mentioned earlier, by the way. LCX's advanced crypto compliance suite comprises of Know Your Customer. This is where, very interesting, when you're passing money on to someone else and vice versa, or towards a business, knowing who that is coming from, using digital identities and the verification process of blockchain. Anti-money laundering, obviously a big problem for finance across the world all the time, has been for many, many decades. This is something that could completely be eradicated and ultimately potentially, put us in pocket, if you like, because of the amount of money that's been lost over these years from money laundering tactics. That could be initially stopped as well. as well as KYT I mentioned about blockchain and analytics, and very much about the process of how blockchain works in the first place. So all of these things incorporated, it's a really, really exciting project continuously for me, the LCX exchange. I know the exchange itself is not fantastic right now. I believe that it's going to improve significantly over the coming years. It's very new in that aspect, but you can clearly see that they are really defining themselves as a ultimate alternative to the existing banking solutions, and that's what excites me the most about this project, and certainly this LEOX token on the Galileo protocol. As I said, let us know what you think about that, all of that in the comments below. Let's jump into the chart of LCX to check out the current price point, floating literally just slightly under that 16 cents, I'm going mad, just under that 13-cent mark, 12.6 cents currently. Okay, so week performance 23% up, the year to date 303% up, which is absolutely significant. If you look back here, 1st of January, price point of 3 cents, jumped all the way up here to roughly around 16 cents. We've had a bit of a drop down. If you remember the last LCX video we did, we measured this opportunity based on fib retracement data and historic data, or what we've got thus far at least of LCX, that this could be a really good possible entry point, or certainly an accumulation point on the way down. That was hit in our limit order. We hold our LCX tokens on our ledger underneath the Ethereum platform. I originally bought them on Bitrue. There was a bit of a fee to get them across, of course, but a lot of people now just go directly to the LCX exchange and buy off there. Just bear in mind, being on Ethereum, sometimes the network costs are a bit higher than other chains if you are looking to move them across to your ledger. But LCX, if the proof is in the pudding that they are as strong as they say they are and secure as they say they are, there's potentially no harm in having it there. But I do always try to bring it off the exchanges as and when possible. So we did come back down to just under this 10-cent mark. This is certainly a trigger point, as we mentioned in previous videos. I still have the buy order back down here at 7, just around sort of 7 cents as well. I'm not suggesting that's definitely going to come down to that area, but it's certainly an area of opportunity. If you look back in the brief history of LCX, there's some really interesting points to really get your minds around. Certainly down at this area back in February 2022, you can see pretty much along this area of interest where we've had a bit of, not necessarily volatility, but certainly a magnetism towards this potential area. And what intrigues me the most is this downward trend and the fact that we've had this big gap here of an upward spike. I think personally, and my opinion, that this is too steep, too quick, and that we perhaps need to really identify proper support levels at these lower regions. That's why I've still got that buy order in there. For sure, we got this one. I anticipate personally that we will still see this one eventually, but who knows in this current space and time. There's a lot of crazy things going on around the world still that haven't been resolved or anything like that. Interest rates potentially going up even further. Well, they are going up in the next month or two. How that will affect people and the markets in general. We've obviously here in the UK, and maybe similar to other countries, the news that was announced here on the channel a few months ago, that the UK government, or HMRC, were announcing that they were going to halve the amount of profit, or certainly the free threshold that you don't have to be taxed on. They're going to be halving that from 12,300 to around 6,000. So I personally think there's going to be a lot of people taking out their profits this year to try and get those big gains on that, and certainly take advantage of that extra 6,000-7,000 before it starts getting diminished for the years to come. And that might see a bit of a trigger point in the markets. We'll have to see. And if that drags the markets down a bit more. But I think, it's like Bitcoin and many other crypto assets right now. We've seen this similar trend. I just feel like it's too upwards, too quick. Let me know what you think about that. But this one's coming. Let's see if we can tick off this one as well. All should be revealed. But as we balance ourselves back onto these fib retracement levels between 12 cents and 13 cents, I think we're going to get a bit of sideways movement here, see if we can get support and maybe pull ourselves up a bit more to test this region again. But this could be where we start seeing a bit of a failure and a bit more of a drop down potentially over time, arguably leading us towards March for these areas. And then who knows what will happen. We'll have to keep an eye on that. From a buying perspective, personally, in my opinion, the 14-day RSI is showing 57, 28 days showing 59. This is still very heavy middle ground for me, so I'm not going to be entering LCX right now until I see a few days of stability, at least at this area, or at least trying to anticipate some further buy orders back down here around 10 cents. Both sides of that really, just above the 10 cents and slightly below it. Two little trigger points there, as you tend to see clearly here in these 2 days here on the 9th and 10th of February respectively. You do see a bit of a dip down and a bit upwards as well. And I still had that buy order, as I mentioned, at the lower region too. Let's see how this plays out, guys. That's my thoughts and opinions on LCX. Let us know what you think about the whole thing, the whole different topics that we covered. LCX as a token. How do you find the exchange? I'm not a massive fan of it just yet, but I definitely see where it could go. And overall, I think this is a phenomenal, exciting project. I love who it's integrated with, and I love what it's starting to provide as a financial institution moving forward. Thanks for watching this video, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Take care and bye-bye.